will the mystery be solved is what we're all wondering.
So, when you pitch an event mystery like this in 2018 to the studios and networks, they want to know that you know where you're going.
Right.
If you don't have a roadmap, they're not buying the show. So when I went in and pitched the show, I talked the studios and the networks through my grand plan. There's a 6-season roadmap. I know the series finale. I know the season 1 finale. I know where we are at 13. And then a lot of other things in between. The mystery will be solved.
Well, thank God.
There's a lot, obviously people are making comparisons to Lost, but setting aside those comparisons, what lessons does Lost historically teach producers in 2018 in terms of how you roll it out, how much you need to have said by the end of the first season, and how we'll call it the weather, but the good and bad weather of the TV audience can shift around in terms of what they're expecting and what they want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. What an honor to even be asked a question comparing your own show to Lost. So thank you for that. Lost is a huge inspiration for this show, but so are relationship dramas like This Is Us on NBC, which we will be sharing the week with. The thing about our show that will allow itself to sustain as an event mystery is that there are 3 storytelling buckets in Manifest. It's an event mystery, yes, about a missing airplane. It's also fundamentally a relationship drama about a family that was torn apart and has been brought back together again. And also there's a procedural component because each week there'll be closed-ended missions, if you will, that wrap up in surprising but satisfying ways each week that allow our characters to interact with each other in interesting ways. The fact that there's these 3 storytelling buckets and that we don't have to service a full hour of mythology every week. It's really just 1/3, and I really think of it as less. When I think of the breakdown of the show episodic week to week, I think of it more as 40% relationship drama, 40% kind of mission of the week, if you will, and really only 20% mythology. And the fact that we can have a slow burn on our mythology will allow us to dole things out in a kind of grounded, consistent, way that I think will allow us not to burn through too much story too fast, allow us to be kind of very logical and organized on our storyboard, avoid, some mythology-based problems that often occur in which you've set up so much so quickly that it's challenging to service it all and to find new places, to go. So my roadmap is laid out in a way that I think the audience will find still to be a lot and incredibly satisfying, but will dole out in a way that is parsed over time such that we don't box ourselves into any storytelling corners.
So what was the genesis of this? Was it that you had this brilliant idea that these people on the plane go missing for 5 years, or did you want to find a way of telling a story where people have been absent? So it was actually more about the human drama of people being missing.
I wish I had an incredibly sexy story about where this idea came from. The truth of the matter is, I have a story, it's just the opposite of a sexy one, because I thought of it driving in a minivan with my family halfway between LA and the Grand Canyon, and that was 10 years ago, by the way. I've been sitting on this idea for 10 years. I was just an out-of-work TV writer trying to think of a big idea that would be incredibly tantalizing, but also incredibly emotional. I was with my family. I have 4 kids, and my wife and I were just kind of pushing through, the freeway and just trying to keep everybody from, not beating each other up and not throwing up. And just that regular, grounded family stuff of a family vacation, all of a sudden it hit me with a ton of bricks. What if, a family were separated and returned in the craziest way possible? And that got me to the airplane, and that got me to the 5-year spread, and all of a sudden I had it. Now, as I said, that was 10 years ago, so what took me so long? Well, I went and I pitched it right away, the next development cycle. Nobody was interested, and I just put it on the shelf. Then the years went by, then Malaysian Airlines happened, and all of a sudden there was a real missing airplane. And I thought to myself, well, my crazy pie in the sky idea isn't so pie in the sky after all. At the time, I was in the middle of producing another show, so I waited a couple years until I came up for air, and I went back out to the studios and the networks, and I started with the good people at Warner Brothers, where I work, and I said, hey guys, forgive me, but here's an old idea. Nobody wants to hear an old idea. They want to hear a new pitch. But I said, I still think this is a good idea, and God bless them, my Warner Brothers executives, they said, yeah, that's pretty good. And then NBC said, yeah, that's pretty good. So it's interesting that, an old idea in a vacuum informed by, an event that happens in the real world can suddenly give new life to a pitch. And that's what happened in this case.
How many scripts are you for this first season?
Okay, so as we're having this conversation, we're in the middle of July. I am currently polishing episode 4. Episode 5 is on its way to me in the next week. But up on the board in the writer's room, we're out probably to episode 7 or 8. We're gridded through 13. And again, broad strokes. We know where we're going. So, but I'm in the weeds right now on episode 3 because we're going to start filming that one next week.
Okay, is there something in these first few episodes that you cannot wait, a moment, cannot wait for the fans to see, that you want to tell people, be sure to be there? What's that moment?
Wow. Well, I don't know that I want to talk about it in specific detail, but I will say this.
Just tell us where
yeah,
it is.
Yeah, sure. So once we get to episode 2, we're going to start learning more about our core family, and we're going to go back, and there's a flashback component to the show that's not evident in the pilot episode because we had to roll out so much real-time storytelling that we didn't have an opportunity to go backwards. In 2 and 3 and onward, we're going to learn backstory about Ben and Michaela's character, about this family, and in particular, there's a core relationship drama mystery that we set up in the first episode that Ben and Grace, their marriage is now complicated by the fact that Grace understandably has moved on. There's another person in her life romantically, and we set that up by the end of the first episode. Her daughter Olive knows about it and says to her mom at the end of the episode, what are you going to do? And it takes a couple episodes for the truth to come out, but it's going to come out in a very powerful and interesting way, and that's episode 4 into episode 5, and I suppose I'm particularly excited about that revelation.
Okay. When I read I'm so sorry. I was just wondering if you had read The Langoliers, the Stephen King short story.
Oh my goodness, yes I have.
Yeah.
Did it influence me? Maybe. I'm influenced by so much. I'm influenced by Lost. I'm influenced by Contact. Robert Zemeckis, my fellow EP, one of my favorite movies of all time. That moment at the end when her daughter when father and daughter are brought together at the end of the movie, it's never left me. And sci-fi plus emotion, man. That's a recipe for success. Thank you guys.